Lou Ferrigno and Dorian Yates have to be two of the widest bodybuilders of all time. This is at the 1992 Mr. Olympia event. Lou Ferrigno made his big comeback. And speaking of big, the guy was like 6'5". He towered over Yates. Is he actually wider, shoulder to shoulder? Cut out a picture of Lou Ferrigno and paste it on to Dorian Yates, and yes, you can absolutely see shoulder to shoulder that Lou Ferrigno is perhaps the widest bodybuilder of all time. And by the end of this one, at least in my opinion, that is, we will know who that man is. And keep in mind, these are pictures, the angles are going to be different, so we're never really going to know. But this is my guesstimation, my guesstimate. And if I have to be fair to Dorian Yates, that was 92, and he got a lot bigger. This here's from 1995. And I would still say Lou's bigger. Let's move this picture over just to check. And obviously, if my sizing's wrong, then my scale's wrong too. But I would suggest that Lou is still a little bit wider. Delt to delt. What about Lee Haney? He was a mastodon. And if I remember correctly, he was slightly wider than Yates. That was way back in 91 though. Yates, like I said, got way wider than that. I would suggest that Ferrigno still slightly wider. So if you're looking at structure alone, taking the height out of the equation, who has a wider clavicle for their physique? Obviously Lee Haney. But for this video, we want to know who the actual widest guy is. And I think Ferrigno at 6 feet 4.5. I will say 6'5" for the video. I think he is the widest dude. Now, just for fun, just for shats and gags, here's Dorian Yates when he was full-blown size, 1995, versus Lee Haney. And I would suggest, move Yates over here for scaling, and I put him down a little bit. Don't worry, they're about the same height, things of that nature. I think that they were very similar, very similar. But why are we talking about those two dudes when we know Lou Ferrigno and wow, who is that bloke beside Lou Ferrigno? That's Paul Dillette. And if I dare say, these two dudes, they are the widest bodybuilders ever. And I must reiterate as well, they don't have the widest clavicles, the widest delts for their heights, but they are giants. Look at them beside Dorian Yates. Yates doesn't stand a chance. And food for thought on this one. Paul Dillette, years later, you see that? His delts, they dwindled away. I think maybe they told him, you're a little too big in the upper body. Get those wheels filled out. So if you want to know when Paul Dillette was at his widest, no doubt. There can be no doubt. Do you see that? 1993. Delt to delt, he was Frankenstein. So who was wider? This is the best sizing that I can do. Obviously it's not going to be exact. You'd have to be there. You'd have to be able to measure these two great big lions to see for sure. But using this picture, I think Paul is slightly wider than the great Lou Ferrigno, believe it or not. So is Dillette the widest? Well, before we continue, let's have a couple of honorable mentions, because I know you guys will mention, oh, come on, Lou, you're so big. Arnold Schwarzenegger, very wide, for sure, but let's face it, Lou Ferrigno, he's about 1.5 feet wider. And I know, you Colemanites, Ronnie King Coleman, he will be mentioned. He is the greatest of all time, guys. This is from the 1996 Olympia, when he was a lot smaller, but structurally speaking, he ain't getting any bigger, folks. And Yates looks like he's a little bit wider. Yates was a beast. You gotta face it. Now, of course, Coleman, oh, what is he, 400 pounds here? It's a Russian Grand Prix. But still, delt to delt, he's probably still bigger than Yates, but he's not bigger than great big Paul Dillette. And I'm not saying he's beating Coleman That's not what this video is about. So Paul Dillette, he's wider than Dorian Yates and Ronnie the King Coleman. And before we look at a couple of more contenders, here's another honorable mention, Jean-Pierre Fuchs. I was thinking in my head that he was way wider than Coleman. He is taller, he's huge, he's a stud. But if you get a little, you guys get a little piece of paper at home, stick it up to your screen, and you can measure it. You can see they're about the same. So Ronnie Coleman, like I said, 93 Dillette, wider than him. So Jean-Pierre would not even be in the conversation. Now ask for great big friggin' Marcus Rule. He is the conversation. He is clearly dwarfing Nasser El Sanbadi and Jay Cutler. Nasser, I'm sure you guys were wondering where he was. He was a beast and all, but shoulder width, delt to delt, he wasn't the widest. You can see, obviously, Marcus Rule was. And Gunter Schlierkamp, not many side-to-side pictures of them, just in the front relaxed. But I think it's obvious that Marcus Rule, he is twice as wide as a guy way taller than him. So I think he has a good chance of being perhaps the widest. And look at this shootout. Keep in mind, this is not to say who's winning this pose. Look at the big perfectly round delts. Ronnie the King Coleman. But we're asking who's the widest. And Marcus is. Now what about Paul Dillette and Marcus Rule? First of all, I will get this out of the way. Marcus Rule competed against Paul Dillette many times. And of course, he dwarfed him in width and size. But that was years later. This is the 1993 Paul Dillette. The situation is a little bit different. You see, I had to get this little measuring thing, and I know it's not the best in terms of like graphics or what have you, but it's the exact same length, and I'll be darned, it looks like Paul's a little bit wider than the great Marcus Rule. Keep in mind, he's way taller, so structurally speaking, yeah, Marcus would be a little bit wider, and he could be tilted thusly. So it's not a very scientific measuring technique. So either Marcus Rule or Paul Dillette, they're the widest. Or this guy, Joel Stubbs, and he is a mastodon. Unfortunately, not many comparisons to actually prove how wide he really was. But look at this back lat spread. You know who that other guy is? That's Tony Freeman, the X-Man Tony Freeman. He's well over 6 feet. He probably should have been mentioned, but I mean, you can clearly see. Joel Stubbs a lot wider. And I know, I think that's Ahmed Haydar and Hatatiti Hidetada Yamagishi. And they're no buses, but I mean, literally twice as wide. Is that what that means? Literally? Actually? I think he really is twice as wide as those guys. He is, however, not twice as wide as one Marcus Rule. And we don't have a whole lot of full body pictures, things of that nature, to, like I said, prove how wide this man is. But there will be a question mark around Joel Stubbs. He could perhaps be the widest bodybuilder of all time. Now, in terms of modern day competitors, we have Samson Dauda, we get Andrew Jacked, and who's that big shouldered guy over in the corner? That is Big Rammy. Ramrod, Momdels Baye, as I like to call him. And if you get your little measuring cube out, he is wider than Samson. He is. I'll argue anybody on that. Samson's taller, things of that nature, but Big Rammy, he is the widest of all the modern day competitors. And you know what? I was a little bit surprised, but when I put Marcus Rule and Joel Stubbs beside Ramrod, delt to delt, I would wager to say that Ramrod, he's wider than both of these guys. I mean, am I mistaken on this one? Get your little measuring tape, go ahead. Cut your matchbox in half and measure it out. So Rammy, could it be Is he the widest? Is he wider than the 93 Paul Dillette? Well, it's very close. And like I said, not the exact scientific measurements that we would like. But I think, hot dog, we have a wiener. We have a winner. Big Rammy. And for you Colemanites out there, but Mark's Max Muscle, Coleman's the widest, he's the best. No, he's not. No, he's not. And obviously, Coleman is the far superior bodybuilder, condition, things of that nature. But in terms of width of the delts, width, clavicle width, things of that nature, Rammy, Big Rammy, Mom Dells by Ramrod, perhaps the widest of all time. But Mark's Max Muscle, what about the great Kali? Well, I mean, but what about Greg Kovacs? Well, come on, guys. It's debatable. It's debatable. Hope you enjoyed this one. I did. Have a great one.